welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are going to dive into a duet series. Now, this comes courtesy of Nakia Staten. Thank you so much for your suggestion. However, these books are a little longer than the normal ones that I read, so we're going to break them up to part ones and part twos each book. Okay? So the name of the duet series is called Second Sets. It's by author Aly Beck. This is a new author for this channel as well. And book one is called Bitter Notes. We meet River. She describes how euphoric and sexy the band sounds, and basically describing how basically everyone's panties are wet, including hers. And the name of this band is called Whispered Words. So we've got Kieran, who's the lead singer, Asher, the grumpy, dirty, blonde guitarist. We've got Rad, whose real name is Ashton Radcliffe, by the way. He's the drummer. And then we've got Callum, who is the bass player. So River is now 19. She is managing a bar, and she invited them to play. She has a memory from when she was about 15 where Rad asked her if she needed him to go get help. Okay? So she has this flashback. We don't know exactly what's happened, but she's having this flashback. So clearly she knows these guys in the band. Clearly. So 2 years ago, she states that she roamed the halls of Central City High School, and they went there as well. And then they graduated when she was a sophomore, and they apparently have no idea she exists. They probably don't even remember her name anymore, is how she puts it. She was just a poor Central City girl showing up to school with ripped out of date jeans, messy hair, not caring what they thought about her. Okay? They live the good life in Lakeview, the guys, which is the good side of town. And, you know, they live off their mommy and daddy's money. They have expensive clothes, all that type of stuff. So she, of course, now has no idea how their lives are like because, again, she's not around them. Kieran and River grew up together in the trenches in Central City, and they were neighbors. So she feels like he's staring at her from the stage, but he's not. It's a whole thing. When they were friends, she would call him Knight, as in, her Knight, because that's his last name. His name is Kieran Knight. But he always was like a knight in shining armor for her. And then all of a sudden, one day, he was just gone, disappeared. And it wasn't until she got to high school where she learned kind of the cold hard truth, which that he kind of moved on to bigger and better side of town, and he basically seemed to forget she existed. His new reality was lined with mansions, money, and he just left her poverty-stricken apartment complex behind. So she's pulled away from her thoughts by Tessa. And this is, I don't know any other way to say it. She's just a bitch. Okay? She's just a real bitch. So she, of course, is like, stamp my damn hand so I can watch my man perform. And we find out Tessa she was a bully to our girl River in high school, and it kind of sounds like she still is. Just saying. She's still giving bully vibes. Our girl River has another memory, and this is what it is. Let me play this for you, River Blue. Mom's new boyfriend got me this. Kieran's small, raspy voice utters, sitting beside her in the grass, overlooking the parking lot of their dismal existence. And so he has his guitar on his lap. He's strumming those strings, tuning them by ear, and he hums, playing her favorite country song by Garth Brooks, and her head rests on his shoulder, and his on the top of hers. And he plays into the night, drowning out the sounds from his apartment that she was way too young to understand. Okay? So we come back to the present. She asks Tessa for the $10. That's the cover charge. Tessa's acting like this is crazy, that she even has to pay. She opens up her purse. She's got some hundreds in there. She's got to go through money to get to the tens. And River's just like, oh my gosh, like this girl's complaining about paying $10 and the money she has in her purse can feed her and her mother for months. That's absolutely crazy. We also find out that Tessa was actually the ringleader of the people that used to basically abuse her in high school. She made sure that she was a punching bag for half of the school. And I'm like, God damn, this is just sad already, you know? We also find out that River's father decided to kick her and her mother out and left them destitute when he found a new woman to put his, as she puts it, wandering schlong in, forcing them to return back to her mom's hometown without a penny to their name. But they've been able to make it all this time, and she feels, they didn't need his help, X, Y, and Z, and the father lives in California, okay? So we find out that she loves her bad boys. She normally screws the rockers that come through the town. She's had a good threesome, foursome, hell, might even been down for a fivesome. She's very sexually liberated. It's fun for her. There's no commitment. She can go on, do what she needs to do. She's not trying to be in a relationship, especially not with a rocker. Her mom told her to never fall in love with a rocker. So that's her thing. She has a best friend named Odette. Odette comes in. She has been her friend ever since she moved into the apartment that Kieran used to live in. So when Kieran's mom married up, she married well, this rich guy, and they left. And a couple days later, Odette and her family moved in. We find out she has really worked her ass off to get here. Booker, the owner of the Dead End, that's the name of the bar, has always had her back like a father. Years before, he used to date her mom, and that's how she got to know him. Booker was like the best boyfriend that the mom ever had, and it lasted for about 2 years. But he pretty much cemented himself in her life. So by age 15, she was begging him to work, like, put me on the door, like, I need to make money. And so that's what he did. She does feel like her mom did the best that she could. It just never was enough. I mean, it's not even enough to keep the heat on. I'm like, well, what the hell is she doing? I'm not trying to be funny, but what? What is she doing? So Odette asks her, like, okay, well, how did you get the band to come here? Because they're making a name for themselves in the Illinois state-ish, area. They're making a little name for themselves. So she's like, how did you finesse this, basically? She's like, did you offer them pussy? She's like, no, you ass. So then she says, you use your last name. So in East Point, California, her last name could probably get her into a limo, $1 million, for hunky men willing to do anything for her, right? But in the middle of nowhere in Illinois, it gets her whispered words. And to her, that's a win in her book. River Blue Rest. For every person that walks through the door, she's getting like 25%. So she's trying to save up money to get out of this place. Like, she wants to be able to go to college, do different things. And she says she's been working here and at Dead Records, the only vinyl shop in town, since she was 15. And she's been saving like her life depends on it. Her friend Odette has a brother, Leon, who cooks at this place as well, because the bar, it's just not a bar for nightlife. It's also a place where you can come and eat as well. So Odette sometimes comes in. She helps her brother cook. She'll serve drinks, things like that. So she's kind of in and out of working there over the years. They still live with their parents, Leon and Odette, but River also still lives with her mom as well. They're just trying to get enough to get up out of this hellhole. uh, and so where she is, remember, Kieran used to live there, right? Now he lives in Lakeview, the ritzy part of town. And a lot of them suburb people are now at this event, right? And she knew that would happen. She knew it would bring them here. Again, this is about getting as many people as you can in to make your pockets as fat as you can, right? So the women start pulling their titties out, and she has to yell out, "Nope, no titties. Put them back. You pull out your titties, you're out." So the band's just like, damn, why is she doing that, But then they start to sing their song, and we find out basically Kieran just has always been her kryptonite. So River goes up to give them their check. It's after the show. She can tell from a distance walking up that our boy Kieran, he's in a mood, right? He looks pissed. So before she can even say anything, he says, "I don't want any Central girl." Like it's just absolutely beneath him. So she's just like, "Well, fine then. I guess you don't want your check either." So he looked at her, but he still doesn't realize who she is. She just ripped the check in front of him, storms off. She goes to the back office, gets in there. She's about to write another check. The check was $4,000, by the way. And she was going to put to the assholes of whispering words. But she's like, I can't do that. So she put that check aside. She did a new check that just said whispered words. And then Kieran comes in. And he's like, "Oh, you should have told me you were, blah, blah, blah." The manager, right? Then he looks at her because, he can see the top of, she's got her, I'm not going to say her breast out, but you can see the top of her chest. And on the top of her chest, it has her name, River. And he realizes who she is. He always called her River Blue. So he wasn't emailing with her. We find out that Callum was the one who was emailing back and forth with her, and the name she used was River West. And so he pushes the check in his pocket, grabs her hair, yanks it back, and says nothing. He just kisses her. That's it. That's all she wrote. She's a goner, right? They have a nice hard fuck on the desk, and he tells her afterwards hold on, let me go back. I'm sorry. He tells her to call me the name you gave me, right? And because he wouldn't fuck her until then. And so when she says night, that's it. That's when he goes to Pound Town on her. She came on this day very explosive, right? Great book to read. Great read, okay? Very descriptive. Well, guess what? The other guys from the band are at the fucking door. They walked up. They saw it. And she's like, "You ass, you forgot to lock the door." Because she calls him an ass hat a lot. And he's like, "You forgot too." So then Asher makes a comment, of like, "Make sure you get tested." Just like, oh my gosh. So he asked her, like, "How did I do?" She said a 6. And he's like, "That was better than a 6." She's like, "No, it wasn't." And he was like, she of course was not going to admit that that was like the best she'd had in a long time. But as he was walking out, he has this like manic look on his face, and he tells her this is far from over. And she realized she's fucked in more ways than one. We switch to Kieran's POV. You know, and I love when they do this. So he, of course, is on cloud nine after that, right? And he's having flashbacks, and a lot has occurred. So when his mom got with Nigel Montgomery, it was just kind of how our girl River described it. He was scooped up, left, brought to Lakeview, and was told he could never go back to Central City. And so whenever he would try and go, he would get beaten really badly. So eventually, you let it go, right? Because you realize what's going to happen if you keep trying. Asher is his stepbrother. And we find out Asher, he's had really hard treatment from the father as well. Asher's just learned to cope with it a different way, but he still has lots of rage. And so a lot of times what he likes to do is go running. It could be for 20 minutes. It could be for 2 to 4 hours, just until he exhausts himself to where he doesn't feel that anymore. So they both got it bad from that father. Callum has a photogenic memory, and which means he can remember everything, unfortunately. Something really awful happened to, it sounds like, his parents and a sibling, but we don't know exactly what happened. We just know that an estate was left to him, and he has like he can't sell the house for another 2 years, right? That's what we know. He's got about 5 more months to go, and then once that happens, he'll be free and clear to sell the house and get the hell out of there. So that should be pretty interesting to find out what the hell happened to him. Then we have Rad, who is just like very free spirited. He's got a mullet. He's just like the fun one. You know, he's just that guy, right? Everyone loves Rad. And they're driving, Ash is driving actually, and he's like, well, what happened to the guy River West? Did he show up? Well, here's the thing. They don't know that River Blue is River West. So eventually he decides to tell them that River is River West. But in the back of his mind, he feels like he finally got her back in his life, and he can't let her go. Now, he hasn't seen River. It's been like 11 years since the last time he saw her. And he does have a memory of when she was probably, or he was around like 11, because he is 2 years older than her. And we find out that she had made multiple attempts to reach out to her father, and he wouldn't even say hi back to her. And so eventually one day, I think it had to be her, she was like 11. Eventually she stopped sending the letters because it was too much for her. Every time it just broke her down. She was crying, and she just decided she wasn't going to do that to herself anymore. So Asher has come up with a plan, because they have been given 1 year to make this band work. If it doesn't work, then they've got to go work for Nigel and work for his company. So, you know, he's paying for their school and everything else, but they, money wise towards the band, they won't take any type of help. Like, they want to keep it pure. And unfortunately, it does take money. So they've been working hard, but they still are nowhere near what they need. Well, I'm gonna say this. I don't know how really hard they've been working, because Kieran and Asher, they don't have jobs. They go to college. So it falls on Callum and Rad kind of more so to get the funds up. But I guess we'll say, like, Kieran's the lead singer, so he's the talent. So I guess they're not going to make him work. I don't know. But it's just like, wow. But anyway, here's the plan. Asher wants to seduce River. He wants to make her fall in love with all of them. Kieran is very confident. He's like, oh, she's going to choose me, so it doesn't really matter. He's not really worried about it. But I kind of feel like, how is that going to work if she doesn't have any contact with the father? How are you going to use her? How does falling in love with her, I'm sorry, let me say it correctly, making her fall in love with you do anything? Like, if the man isn't going to take a letter from a kid, I don't think he's going to take a letter from her as an adult. I'm just saying. So, I don't see why this sounds like a good plan. This sounds like a Hail Mary. And it seems very far-fetched to me. It really does. But that's his little plan. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So, Kieran's mom, her name is Gloria. Remember, she's married to Nigel Montgomery. She, of course, married him for the lifestyle. And she apparently never protected Kieran from any type of the abuse that he received at the hands of Nigel. So we already know that bitch is a trash-ass parent, right? We already know. She used to turn tricks as well to get money for him. So, I mean, I get it. You got to do what you got to do. But once she found a real meal ticket, she hasn't really cared about protecting her kids. So, again, she's a trash-ass parent. We don't like Gloria. So, Kieran pulls out the check from the show. It's $1,000, but they see that it wasn't signed. So they're like, we've got to go back anyway. So that's kind of an excuse for them to get back around River. We switch back to River's POV. She, of course, having all these thoughts in her head, right? Of what just went down. She's trying to keep it as this was just a quick fuck, nothing more. We find out that she still has in her pocket the knife that Kieran gave her all those years ago to help her protect herself from getting beat up so much. I'm like, oh gosh, this poor girl. He even had her name carved into it, River Blue. So come to find out, everybody heard her fucking. Leon, Odette's brother, who cooks there, he heard it all. It's just a mess. And he's like, well, you needed to get it. So it's like, you had to stick up your ass. It is what it is. So she's getting ready to leave out. She's got an old car named Bessie. Odette tells her she's going to stay at Ricky's. They're not in a relationship, but it was supposed to be just like this hookup thing. And yet it seems like it's morphing into a type of a relationship, but she doesn't admit that it's a relationship, one of those things. So we'll say Odette's in a situationship, possibly. So Leon's about to leave. He's like, you sure you want me to give you a ride? She's like, nah, my car, she'll make it. So he leaves out. Guess what? She goes to start her car. It will not start. So she walks home. Thankfully, nothing happens. Well, we get a little backdrop as to what her plans are. So tomorrow she starts her first day of college. She's got to work the 2 jobs, working at the bar, working at the record shop, and go to school. And she's going to do it. She's going to work her ass off so that she can then transfer to Cali State and finish her degree. And I think it's music business or something like that. And basically wants to be able to manage bands. So being that her father's all influential in the music business, like he owns a record company, for God's sakes, she wants to show that she's going to be the best at this. But it's not just to prove that she's better. It's also because the girl absolutely loves music. She loves it. And so she wants this in spite of her father. Like, this is something she needs to do for herself because she loves music so much. And a career as a music manager would allow her to be around it all the time. So, and she's got to hustle and grind. And clearly she's a hustler. This girl working 2 jobs, going to school. She's a hustler. You know what I mean? So that's her plan. She's trying to get the hell up out of here. So I love it, though. I love the dream. There's a goal, and she's doing everything that she can to get to it. Now I'm just gonna compare, okay? Now you have the rich kids, and two doesn't sound like two of them are really doing everything. Kind of sounds like Asher's looking for an easy way out. I'm just saying. She gets to the apartment. Leon's outside. She would have called him, but she didn't want him to have to come all the way back for her, so it was fine. She The door's open. It's Corinne. That's Odette and Leon's mother. We find out their father died in a car accident a long time ago. This is what happened, and they wind up moving to this place. And Corinne stays at home. She might be slightly disabled, if I'm not mistaken, slightly, but she always stays up to make sure that the kids get home safe. And so she tells her, good luck tomorrow on your first day. I'll have dinner ready before you go to your second job. And she just really loves Miss Corinne. She really stepped up when her mom failed. So it sounds like her mom ain't shit either. Just saying. Miss Corinne has always been there. And so she goes into her apartment because she thought she was going to be by herself, right? Well, her mom, we find out, is a goddamn stripper. Has been for the past 15 years. Now, this in itself trips me out. The fuck you mean you a stripper and you still can barely keep on heat? This apparently where they live is restricted, income restricted, some kind of housing. So how the fuck? How you tell me how? You got to be one of the worst strippers ever. How? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm sorry, that's so awful, but I'm just saying. I know it's not like what we see all the time on social media, right? Every stripper ain't bringing in that kind of money. But you should be bringing in I thought it would be at least enough for us to understand why the fuck you doing it. Because if you can't even bring in that, you could have just go flip burgers. What's the difference? What's the fucking difference? I don't know. It's insane. But anyway, her mom's there. We find out she's crying. She broke her damn ankle. And Barry, who owns the strip club, fired her. And another bombshell, she's got multiple sclerosis. She's got MS. Here's another bombshell. She found out 7 years ago, but never told River. And I'm just like, I don't know. I get it. She didn't want River to worry. Because let's be honest, River, she is like the best type of a kid for a piece of shit parent like that, right? Because you don't have to look after her. She's going to look after herself. She's going to make sure she makes a way, and she'll probably make a way for you too, right? That's just the type of person River is. And so I guess because she goes so much over and beyond, like River got straight A's in school and shit, like she works her ass off. She didn't want to burden her with it, but guess what? Now we're getting to a point, it's gonna affect her. So you wait 7 years to say something? I'm just saying, she could have maybe looked into some programs to possibly help you. I mean, 7 fucking years? Whew. I don't like this mama either. I do not. She tells her mom, we'll see if we can get you on disability. Like, we'll figure something out. She's going to go to the doctor tomorrow. Her mom is with Corinne. Corinne's going to take her. And it's just like, God damn, so much for her having a relaxing bath. And now she's got 5 hours, I'm sorry, before a really fucking busy day starts. So she's going to do the virtual college thing. It's a hybrid course, which is great for her because she can work at the record store and attend class. So as she's listening, the guys walk in, the whole band, and she's like, son of a bitch, like, really? Come on, So they, of course, they're messing with her. Kieran tries to grab her. She takes out the knife he gave her, and he has a flashback, and he's just kind of like, she kept it. You know what I mean? Like, couldn't believe she kept it. But the flashback, I'm sorry, wasn't Kieran's. It was actually River's. And she has a flashback of when she went to this party when she was like 15. She hadn't seen Kieran in a long time, but he like really didn't seem to know her. He treated her like she was just anybody else. Like he didn't know her. She got really upset. She started drinking, and all she remembers afterwards, or what she says that she remembers, is some guys asking her if she needed help. But it very much sounds like she got violated by more than one person. So awful. So then she remembers hearing Rad's voice saying, do you think you need help or something? She snaps back to reality. They tell her about the check, and she's like, oh shoot, we'll just come out tonight. I'll write you a new one. Artist named Scorcha is going to be there. She's an independent artist, and she's really huge. And so she did a lot of back and forth with that to get her to come to the bar. And while she's in there, her ex comes in. His name's Donovan Drake. He's a rich kid too. I want to say his dad's a judge, if I'm not mistaken. We get a little backdrop of their story. So they were fucking around for like 9 months. And then when the parents caught them fucking in his Mustang, they told him he had to get rid of her. So he dumped her. He still comes around her. He'll come to the record store and stuff like that different times, and they still occasionally still hook up. She thought she really loved that guy, so it was a really major heartbreak for her. And so after that is when she decided, fuck that, I'm not doing relationships anymore, fuck feelings, we're not doing that anymore. But when you say that, that's when you're probably bound to get sucked in, okay? It's bound to happen. And she looks like she just had 4 people walk through the door that are going to be a damn problem when it comes to the feeling area, we can tell. So anyway, the Donovan dude comes in. He talks about some, album or whatever. And she tells him where it is. It's upstairs. But while the guys are there, they start talking. They're like, oh yeah. They said, we heard you were caught up with some woman in Central City and your dad gave you an ultimatum. So this was the full thing of what happened. The father basically told him, if you don't end it, I'm not going to fund your college education and you're pretty much going to be cut off. And so that made him go, well, fuck this shit. I guess I'm done with this relationship. It's not funny, but it's crazy the quickness he let her go. God dang. Donovan goes upstairs. I think the other guys leave or whatever. They're going to wait in the car. And our boy, Kieran, he tells her he's going to make her come before Donovan comes back down. And they call Donovan Van. So you might hear me say Van. So sure enough, he gets the rubbing on the clit and makes her come as the guy's coming down, but she doesn't scream out so he can't hear. And his fingers are like knee deep. That's so horrible. They're knuckle deep in her pussy. And the guy comes back over. He takes his hand out of her cooch. So he's still wet with her coochie juice. And he had been biting her on her neck. So when the guy kind of looked, he kind of could tell, like, oh, they've been doing something. But Kieran had freaking shook the man's hand with her pussy juice. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is just so bad. And the guy, when he realizes it, he looks at his hand, it's like glistening. He gets so pissed. And he like storms out. That was the funniest thing to me. Oh my gosh. But what he does say, Kieran, then before Kieran walks out, he's like, don't make any plans after your shift tonight. And she's like, I get off at 2. And he's like, I don't care. Like I said, don't make any plans tonight. And she's just like, whatever. So then he leaves, and she sees him outside with the guys in the truck, and they're in their Tahoe. Which, by the way, side note, I swear, after I read this book, it's like all I see are Tahoes, and I just look at them and I think about the guys. It's so funny. But anyway, she, of course, is thinking, if I could be a fly on the wall in there to hear their conversations, you know? Well, then Van comes back, and he tells her, don't you trust those guys. He lets her know, like, they're going to do anything to make it. They want to play at the famous KC Club. They want to use your connection to your dad. She's like, I don't have a connection to my dad, you know? Like, I don't talk to him. You know, she's got two older brothers. And, of course, there's that conflict of, for her, why does he love them, but he won't love me? You know what I mean? The whole thing. He just threw her away when she was 2 years old. That's when he kicked her and the mom out. You know? So, again, this is my whole thing. I didn't see how is this going to help them because she doesn't have a connection. You know, she doesn't. So anyway, he's just telling her, don't trust him, all this type of stuff. He wants to give her a heads up. And she's like, I don't care. Like, I don't have anything. I can't give them what they want. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. But he's just, you know, in her mind, she's not paying him any attention either because, let's be real, he treated her like she was second fiddle trash. And she's just like, you know what? She's going to do what she wants and she's going to do what makes her happy, whatever that may be. We switch back to Kieran's POV, and this is, you know, his whole stance of what happened just now. So when he walked out, he saw Van go back inside. They could see that whatever Van was saying to her, she didn't particularly care. They could tell. So Van comes back out, and he comes up to their Tahoe, and he's just like, you stay away from her. I know what you're up to. You guys would do anything to get out of this town, you know? And he tells them she doesn't even talk to her father. You need to leave her alone. And then Asher comes up, and Asher has the tea already. He's like, you have been fucking with River. You still been fucking with River. And you've got a girlfriend that to the public is Whitney. And neither one of them know about what you've been doing with River. Still. Because he knows that sometimes her, River, and Van fuck around at the record shop in the back. Right? He's shocked because he didn't think nobody knew about it. And that's just like, I have many ways of finding out things. He says, so you stay away from her. And you don't have to worry about anything when it comes to her, you know? So then Van storms off. So they leave from there. They're going to practice. And Van is like, you know, not Van. Jesus, not him. Kieran. Kieran is like, you know, in his mind, she's all his. That's it. Like, he'll never leave her again. He can't go without her. Like, he's like all in. Like, for real. So they knew what he had done with her, with like fingering her and shit. And so what he winds up doing is he sticks his fingers, the pussy juice fingers, in Asher's mouth. Asher spit him out, but listen, before Asher spit him out, he did dart his tongue at the fingers. Nobody's going to know that except for Kieran, because the mouth was closed, right? But I'm like, oh my gosh. I said it's really looking like they all have a little thing for her, clearly. So this gets Asher all upset and stuff, and he is like, I gotta go for a run. So he goes for a quick run or whatever. Our boy Callum, he's a virgin. They know when he's interested in a woman because he'll look at her and stuff like that. But the way he looks at River is something totally different. And I don't know. I feel like they're all gonna have this deep affection for her. I think we're looking at a polyamorous relationship. That's what this feels like. Because Kieran, he's crazy about her, but it's at the same time he's not like against sharing her with his boys. He's not against that. So he looks at his boys as like family, like. But I mean, do you want your family fucking who you? I don't. It just. But again, everyone's different, right? Everyone views things in a different light. So if they're okay with it, then they're okay with it, right? It works for them. Then Merry Christmas. But yeah, he seems to be okay with sharing her, and clearly, I'm like, y'all want to share because Rad is constantly talking about. He'll call her his girlfriend. He'll say, how much he wants her too. It's like Asher's not admitting to wanting her, and Callum's not admitting to wanting her, but Callum doesn't admit to shit anyway, and Asher's too busy acting like he can't stand the girl, you know. We switch back to River, and it's the night Scorcher. She's gonna be there. It's packed, and it's looking like she's gonna get another fat check for this night too. So then Tessa, that bully bitch, that's what we're going to call her and how we're going to refer to her from now on because that's what the fuck she is. She's there. She does the same bullshit again, calling her a Central City slut and all that type of stuff. Just awful. So she said something to her girlfriends like, do you see them? Do you see them? They said on their flashgram, which I'm sorry, that is cute. Instead of saying Instagram flashgram, they made up different names for the social media sites. I don't know. It's cute. I like it. They said they were going to be here, and all this type of stuff. And clearly, Whispering Words must have put something on their social media, right? So she made a comment also that this was like her last shot. So they go in the crowd. Not too long after, here comes Rad, Ash, Callum, Kieran, all in her space, So she's peeping out Rad as well. Rad is fine, okay? And it's not like Kieran's the only fine one. They're all fine. They're bad boy rockers. This is her absolute type. And she can see Rad's print, in his pants. He's got his tight jeans on. She can see the eggplant. Like, he's packing. So, it's turning her on. He's an option to lay with, too. She's not against it. Okay? She's like, why should she just have to choose one? She shouldn't. She could do what she wants. I'm like, okay. It does stump her that Rad doesn't remember her, like something from that night, because that was a really traumatic night. But then again, she thinks, you know what? Something like that, maybe you just would try and forget it, you know? I would, I mean, not, people deal with trauma the way they deal with it. They deal with it how they feel they should. So clearly, she feels like that's probably what's going on with Rad. But she's ready to jump his bones. That she does know. Kieran's ready to screw her. It's just a whole lot going on. So the event's going on. Everyone's screaming. They're having a great time. The girls are rocking it out. They take a 30-minute break before they do the second half of their set. They come up to the bar and see River. They have some back and forth. Asher comes over, orders some drinks for the guys, and then whatever the girls ordered, he's like, put it on my tab. And we find out that there's something called the Battle of the Bands that's going down in California at the KC Club. And Scorcha has been invited. The invite, they just found out like a few hours ago. So doing the different festivals, having that great YouTube and the, social media following really helped them because apparently it's by invitation. And this is awesome for them. So they leave, go back, and they're going to perform. Asher tells River thank you, but it's kind of flirty the way that he did it, and it freaked her out, because he doesn't do that, So there's a little flutter in her stomach at the idea that Asher could possibly be flirting with her. So her brothers, their names are Zeppelin and Sager, like Led Zeppelin, Bob Sager. So they run the record company, and they've been doing amazing. So apparently, the Battle of the Bands, you get like a record contract and $1 million. It's a really huge deal, and it sounds like they're also in a polyamorous relationship. The the two brothers have a wife, one wife. And I'm like, okay. But then I'm like, you know what? It might just be in her blood of why she's so open to this type of thing. You know what I mean? It could just be how they flow. And again, if it works, then it works. You know, everyone's relationship is not going to look the same. It isn't. So if that works for them, then cool for them. We switch to the POV of Asher. Listen, I love this. This is just, oh my gosh. We have a third POV, guys. I love this. So, Asher saw how confused River was by his that flirtiness, right? And just like I thought, he's got a thing for her, but he doesn't want to admit it. You know, she brings out something in him, like that whole need of wanting to be careless. Even though, okay, she's really not careless if you think about it. Like, she works two jobs, she goes to school. She's not really careless, but she's just very free when it comes to what she wants, right? If she wants to fuck, she's gonna fuck. But it doesn't like become her whole life. You know what I mean? It's just like if that's what she needs to let off some steam, or if that's what she wants to do at that moment, she does. But she's a really fucking hard worker, you know? But for him, she seems free because she doesn't care about what other people think of her. You know, you got to think they live in this suburban area, which, you know, it's all about image. I know that sounds judgy, but I mean, I've never really heard of it being any different. But, you know, it's a judgmental type of a situation. So I I get being able to look at someone and see how they don't care how the world views them. They love themselves, they don't care. That's a very freeing thing, you know? And if you're not able to do that, to see someone do it, you're going to react in one or two ways. You're either going to say good for them, I wish I could, or you're going to hate on them because you can't. It's going to be one of the two. He goes back over, takes the drinks back to the guys. They're in a booth. And we get a backdrop. And we find out some more things about Asher. So, Nigel Montgomery was beating him too. His mom overdosed, and he was the one that found her with the needle in her arm. The dad locked him in a room for 3 fucking days, would give him meals and water, and then the day after his mother's funeral told him bad boys get punished. Yeah, that man is pure evil. Like, we knew it when he was beating on the on Kieran, but that, oh my gosh. Yeah, he's just evil. Good grief. Oh, but anyway, when Gloria comes along with the bonus child, he got some reprieve. It's fucked up, but he did. He wasn't getting his beat as much. Unfortunately, Kieran was now taking that. So here's the thing. In May, when he graduates, his dad wants him to take over the company. He's got no intention of doing that. The plan is to get the hell up out of here. So by then, he'll have his degree, just in case. It's always good to have a good fallback plan. But he's been looking up the Battle of the Bands. And he sees that if you have a pretty good social media following and you submit within a certain time frame, you can still submit a submission. So they've got to get their social media presence up, okay? So there's still a possibility they could get into this. And this is what I mean. You need to find real avenues to try and get towards the dream, you know? I'm just saying. Well, Tessa comes over with her friends, and he's like, go away. Just go away. She's like, why do you treat me like that? Is it because of that central slut? And he says, just go the fuck away. And Rad even says something slick to her as well, so she storms off. Caleb looks over at River, and Asher can tell Caleb likes her. Is it Caleb? Callum. It's Callum. He likes her. Rad, of course, is talking dirty. He's like, I want to join in tonight. Talking to Karen. He's like, you can take her from the back and I want her face. I'm like, damn. And so this talk is going on. Asher's getting turned on by it. Like the idea of her being in that position turns him on. So then there's a commotion. Customer named Bradley. He said something awful to fucking River and calling her all kind of names. And Asher is out of his seat in a flash. Curses the guy out, tells him to get the fuck up out of there. Rad comes up, Kieran comes up. They all get over there. Callum too. And Rad's trying to throw the guy out, but he's a big dude. He's like 250 pounds. So they're trying to get him out. And Rad seems just like furious with this guy. This isn't normal. This is like a fury, like a rage he feels towards this guy. And we find out this guy's dad is like the mayor. He covers up a lot of shit that his kid does. And Rad calls him a rapist. And I'm like, I wonder if he's the one that did something to River. They get the guy outside and everything. And after he's gone, Callum is talking with Ash. And he's just kind of like, you know what? You got a good idea, because you got to think she's like, she's really organized. She's got to be River, you know? She might be able to help us on that end as far as getting into this, you know? So, and I get that. They're in the band, right? So, having someone handle all that other stuff and y'all could just focus on the music, that would be great. But here's the thing, that girl got 2 jobs. And she goes to school. You know, like, you want to add a 4th thing to her? I'm just saying, good grief. But the one thing that he is afraid of, he almost feels like it's gonna happen, is that she's gonna bring a wedge between him and everyone else, and that's gonna be a problem, because I think they all want her, and it's coming out slowly but surely that they all want her. We already know Kieran wants her, Rad wants her, Callum's staring at her, he clearly wants her, and Asher's ass wants her but doesn't want to really admit it, but he wants her. So yeah, I could see this definitely being a problem, unless they really are okay with it, you know. We switch back to Kieran's POV. It's after the show. He's in her office. He's on his knees. He told her he'd be on his knees waiting for her. So Rad is sitting in the office, but he's sitting in the chair. So finally she comes in, and he tells her, like, whatever you want to do, we'll do it. Like, he's like, you know, if you want him to just watch, he'll watch, like, whatever you want him to do. So then she kisses Rad, and Kieran starts eating her pussy, and then she started sucking Rad's dick while she's getting fucked by Kieran. Very erotic scene, you know, in this office. So then afterwards, I don't think she's fully dressed. She gets her clothes to leave out to go get dressed. I don't know why. You just fucked him. I don't get that, right? Just put your clothes on there. But anyway, Rad's a goner. Like, nah, he's too crazy about that girl, right? And they hear this gutter moan come from close by, and it says, God, River. And Kieran busts into the hall, busts out, and he's not ready for what he's about to see. We then switch to the POV of Callum. I absolutely love this. We've added another one. I love it. I love it. I love it. So Callum's in the bathroom. His phone died. So he no longer has the music in his ears, which helps him drown the memories out. And they come back full force, right? So the problem is, again, he's got a photogenic memory. He remembers everything. And he remembers someone named Jenny being hurt, saying, I need help, help me. Him saying, I'm going to get help. And then she's gone. And it stays on repeat in his head. I'm like, this poor guy. This poor guy. Well, then he starts hearing the moans of the fuck session, right? His dick is getting hard. He takes it out, he starts jacking off, and then the door opens up because he's in the bathroom, by the way. And he stops because he knows if he makes a move, someone's going to know he's in there. But our girl River knew someone was in there and was like, who's in here? And he says it's Callum. He stutters. So she opens the stall, sees him with his dick in his hand. He thought she was going to be disgusted. She said, you heard us? She said, did you come? He was like, no. She says, do you want to come on my titties? And he goes to jacking off and comes on her titties. That's when our boys, Kieran and Rad, walk in after he's jacked off on her titties. And they were like, they weren't mad about it. They were happy because apparently he's never done this because Callum's a virgin. And so they're proud of this for him, you know? So the other two leave. Callum cleans up River. They leave out, asks her, what did he ask her? Oh, shoot. He asked her something. I can't remember. But anyway, then Callum leaves out and, you know, Callum doesn't talk, right? So he doesn't kiss and tell, basically. So they're outside, they're in the Tahoe, and then they see River walking, and they're like, oh, hell no, this is not happening. So Asher pulls up, and he's like, get in. She's like, no, I can get myself home. I'm fine. He runs up to her again. He's like, no, get in the car. If you don't get in the car, I'm going to throw you over my shoulder and spank you on your ass. She keeps walking. Asher jumps out the car and does exactly what he says and puts her on Kieran's lap. They take her to her apartment. They see that Bradley guy not too far away. And I'm like, he's up to no good, I'm quite sure. And so she gets out and she left her phone. So they all get out the car to go give her the phone. But when she opens the door, she's like, help, I need your help. Also, what I forgot to mention, Callum was also thinking of like getting her a new phone and, you know, maybe getting her a car, like ways to make her life possibly easier. Like he knows she wouldn't want to take a handout and stuff like that, but if he can make her life easier, he wants to do it. So it's safe to say that Callum is gone. Okay, he's crazy about her too. We switch back to River. We find out what happened. When she went in, she didn't see her mom, right? She's looking around. She goes in the bathroom. Her she's hit her head. She's got blood dripping. She's pale, passed out. She looks dead, okay? But she did check for a pulse, and she still got one, but she freaks out, you know? And so when she goes back to the door and says she needs help, they all come in. And Asher is very much trying to snap her into focus. And he's like, you tell me right now what's wrong. And she was able to kind of tell him with him commanding her what to do. It's crazy, but it worked. So they called 911. She got clothes on her mom and stuff like that. They helped her the whole way. Everyone was just very much there for her. The EMTs get there. They check her for a concussion. She cleared. They, of course, tell her not to shower alone by herself. They settle her into her chair. The EMTs tell her, you know, if there is any other symptoms that arise, you know, she's going to have to go to the ER. They leave. And then, of course, they're like, what else do you need? Like, what else, you know? Kieran puts his number in her phone. He's like, you call us if you need us for anything. And it was a lot going on. She had wound up, before the EMTs got there, she had, like, broke down and started crying. And they just all rallied around her. And it was a really genuine moment, right? She was very vulnerable. And they wanted to help her any way that they could. So she messages the dude that owns the bar and lets him know. I don't know why I can't remember his name, and I know I said it before. But anyway, she messages him to let him know she's not going to be at the record shop tomorrow, whatever. Explains what happened. He's like, that's fine, no problem. X, Y, and Z. And I just feel bad for her because it's just so much, you know? It's so much going on. She's trying to accomplish so much. And it's, she's got to worry about her mom. It's just so sad. It really is. River's in her bed. Her mind is spiraling a little bit. There's a knock on the door. She's got a sliding door to her room. And it's Callum. And he was really worried about her, and he didn't want her to have to sleep alone. And she was so thankful for that because she really did need someone. So before he gets in the bed, he says, is it okay if I take off my shirt and my bottoms? And she's like, that's fine, as long as you're okay with the fact that I'm not wearing any underwear under my shirt. So he takes off his shirt, and she can see all of his tattoos. But when you look closely at the tattoos, you can see that they're covering up scars. And so she traces them with her finger, and he, of course, says to her, he says, ask me. And so she does. So he tells her what happened. And he was kind of silent at first, and so she told him, listen, if you're not comfortable, you don't have to tell me. But he tells her. So 2 years ago, he lost his whole immediate family. His mother, father, and his sister. They died in a plane crash. His sister died in his arms. He was the only one that survived the plane crash. And he states that the only thing he has that's left of them is everything in the house, a trust they left in his name to pay the bills. And she, of course, was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And he said something to her in regards to the Bradley guy. It's like this moment of truth. I just told you this. I want an answer about something I witnessed with you. So he noticed that when the Bradley guy had bumped into her and said the things to her, how she stiffened up. And he was like, you went pale. And we find out, she admits, it was Bradley and his friend, I can't think of his name. They were the ones that violated her 4 years ago at that party. So Kieran doesn't know about that. He wasn't there. Rad doesn't know that's who she is. She doesn't really want to bring it up. It's hard enough just to even think about it. So they fall asleep, and when they wake up, it's noon. There's another body in the bed. It's our boy Rad. So Rad has pretty much come in and taken care of a lot of stuff. Because she thought she was going to have to, worry about her mom. Well, he reached out to his mother, who, through their church, they have a home health aide that can come by 5 days a week to help her mom. And she doesn't have to pay anything. So she, of course, gives him a kiss. This is a huge load off of her shoulders. She's so thankful for this. And so he also washed the dishes. He brought donuts for her mom, he really did a lot for her. And it's shocking, but at the same time, I do feel like there's genuine care and concern for her. It's not like she is just, whining about life. The girl is grinding. She is trying to make something of herself, and she gets hit with these setbacks, but she keeps fighting, and I think they see that, and how can you not do anything but respect it? She was so shocked with him washing dishes because she's like, you're domestic? He's like, of course, I got to take care of myself. Me and Callum, we live together. And she's like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's Callum's house, but yeah, we live there. So then what did they do? He tells her, well, what do you want to do today? Because now you really do have a real day off. So she's like, well, what is it that you're basically trying to get me into? So he races dirt bikes, okay? This is a way that he earns money. And his money that he earns, it's for the band, it's for the dream, right? So she, of course, she protests at first, but eventually she gives in. She's like, all right, I'll go. So then guess what, guys? We switch over to Rad's POV. When I tell you this was so incredible to me, I was like, oh my gosh, we get to hear from every single character. This is beautiful. Oh my gosh. So we get a little backdrop on Rad. Rad comes from a very religious family. And he wasn't supposed to get tattoos, no piercings. And so he went and did all of that stuff, and his father put him out. Okay? So he's at the race. He wins the race. Van comes up and he says something about, I forgot to mention something to River. And really, River really wasn't into anything he had to say, you know. And as I thought about it more, I don't think he was probably that crazy about her anyway, especially with the fact that he was dropping her off a block away from where she lived, never went to the bar where she worked, all that type of stuff. And she thought as well, like, you know what? I don't think he felt what I thought he felt. She's got all these thoughts in her head as he's like coming up trying to talk to her. And the way the guys really rallied around her, she realized when someone feels something for you, they react to you very differently. And so, of course, Rad is calling River his girlfriend. Van looks like he's about to blow a gasket. But again, you did her dirty. You didn't treat her right. It wasn't just your parents gave you an ultimatum. You couldn't be seen with her. Like you treated her as if she wasn't good enough. And that's shitty. There's no way around that. You know what I mean? So, however he feels, I wouldn't care. So, Rad reaches over, of course, and kisses River. This sends the boy Van crazy. He leaves. And then another guy they go to, his name's Brett. He handles like the bet money and stuff like that. He's also like a drug dealer. So he he holds the money. So he gets the money. Rad does. He won about $800. We find out that Brett, he's the guy, he lives in Lakeview. Well, let me say it correctly. He used to live in Lakeview. He's from the suburbs. But when he got of age, he found his crew in Central City. He's apparently been thriving as a drug dealer and part-time gambler ever since. So she gets on the bike because he wants to take her for a ride. Rad does. And she, of course, is kind of like, but she gets on. And our boy Rad is having all these freaky thoughts about her in his head. They go for a little ride because Callum had left. He was like he was going to go ahead and go. He'll meet him back at the house, right? So takes her for a little ride. They have a little conversation. We find out that Rad's parents, so his father is a Lutheran preacher, okay? And the father is like one person at the church, a different person at home. Rules it with an iron fist at home. And about 3 years ago is when when his father put him out, when he got those tattoos and piercings. He came and moved in with Callum and his family. And that was something that the family just kind of took him in, like it was just like, okay, you come stay here, no problem. So then after this little conversation, he's talking to her, telling her how he wants to eat her pussy. He wants to fuck her right now. But he also wants to teach Callum how to eat pussy because I guess he has not done that yet, okay? So before they go inside, he winds up kissing her and fingering her like on the bike. She comes. It's a whole thing, right? So then they go inside the house, and Callum is there, and they were talking a little bit about the fact that Rad had moved in like 3 years ago, and how much Callum's parents like really loved Rad. Like they loved him, and they were more than happy to have him around because Callum's a little bit of an introvert, so you have this complete extrovert in Rad. So he was fun to have around. So it was great. So then Rad is like, okay, He wants to have fun, okay? You gotta remember, he wants a session, all right? And she's over there, she's talking to Callum, and they kiss, and Rad is like, I want to join in on the fun too. And he's like, let's take this up to the bedroom. So they get to the bedroom. Brad throws the money on the sheets because he had told her he wanted to fuck her on top of the money. He wants her pussy juices on it, you know? It's good luck to him, is how he views it. So then he starts kissing her. She looks and she sees his tattoo, and it shoots her back to a memory from that night 4 years ago. After she got out of the hospital, and she did tell the people at the hospital that she was raped, things like that. And she also had a conversation with Rad, and Rad had told her, if you tell me who did this to you, I'll make them pay. I'll make them pay. Well, when she goes back to school, she slips the names of the guys into Rad's locker. Bradley and Kyler, that was his name. His Bradley's friend was Kyler. Those are the ones that violated her. And so Asher, Kieran, and Rad beat the ever living shit out of the two of those guys. They walked around with fucked up faces, okay? She starts crying, and she's thinking of the memory, and she starts crying, and she doesn't realize she's crying in the present. And then Callum is like, tell him. Just tell him. And Rad is like, tell me what? Because he still doesn't realize that she's the girl from that night. So she tells him, I'm the one that slipped the note in your locker. Slowly it's starting to come to, make sense to him. He's like, wait a minute. What do you mean? And she was like, I was the girl that night. And he's like, how could that be? He's like, I would have remembered you. I never saw you again. Well, we find out what happened is, after that incident, she cut her hair, cut it off because they used her hair. She had longer hair. They used it to keep her held down. So she cut that shit, and that's understandable. And she started wearing really big clothes. She didn't want to be noticed. Okay? And so because of that, he never found her. She looks completely different. So he, of course, is like, oh my gosh, did I cross a line last night? He becomes very concerned because ever since that night, he's been very weary of ever crossing a line that a woman's not comfortable with. And I'm like, well, your ass should have always been like that. But after, witnessing her afterwards, it's like he is so super conscious of that. And she's like, no, everything's fine. Don't trip. It's good. I promise. I wanted everything that happened. You didn't cross any lines. And he's like, are you sure? Are you sure? And now he's like, are you even sure if you can do this now? You know what I mean? And she tells him, stop. I'm okay. I want this. She starts kissing Rad, and Callum was about to leave, and she's like, don't do that. Don't leave. And Rad was like, take your dick out for her, So he takes his dick out, he starts jerking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. There's a lot going on. So then Rad puts a condom on, he starts to fuck her. He's like, I'm not gonna last much longer, but like Callum Dick's looks, I guess, dry. He needs some lube. And Rad says to him, come back here and get some of her pussy juices and put it on your dick. So he takes himself out of her and they start fingering her. And he does just that, puts her pussy juices on his dick. And then he tells her, I'm going to fuck her and then you're going to come on her ass. And that's exactly what they do. So then Callum took her to clean up, gave her a bath and stuff. They laid in the bath and she asked him what his issue was like with sex. What was he waiting for? Eventually he answers and he says he's just waiting for the perfect moment because it's something he's going to remember forever. So he wants it to be with someone, or I don't want to say, well, it could be someone special, but he wants it just to be a perfect moment, because I guess when you have something that's been awful, you don't want any more awful, memories. He doesn't. So I get it. It makes sense. So after that conversation, Rad brings his ass in there and they wind up, washing her hair and stuff like that. And they all get in the bed and her phone buzzes and it's a text message. And also, I'm sorry, before the text message, something was said. It sounded like a good lyric, and Rad was like, let me go write this down. And then she gets that whole message, and it's from Van, and he's saying that, please just talk to me. I just need to talk to you. Please don't do this, just all this bullcrap, right? So she, of course, is just like, whatever, and I don't blame her because, again, Van treated her like shit, okay? And it's like she wasn't from the right family, but technically she is, her bloodline, she is from the right family. It's just that people don't know it. He knows it because he got close to her, but everyone doesn't know that. You know what I'm saying? But again, if she's not good enough, then she's not good enough, but then it's like, leave her the fuck alone. I don't know if he has sincere, like, I don't want them to fuck you over, or just, I want to be able to fuck you over, not somebody else. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I feel like for Van, she was a great fuck. And now he sees that Kieran's fucking her. Not Callum, he hasn't seen anything with Callum, but Rad, he saw her kissing him. It's like, it's more so like they're getting what I used to be able to get. I don't know. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like true concern just because of how he treated her before. You know what I mean? I could be wrong, but that's how it's coming across. So this is where we're going to stop because, again, these are longer books than my normal. So I've got to split these up. So this is part 1 of Bitter Notes, and then we'll conclude next week with the rest of it'll be part 2 of Bitter Notes. What did you all think? I absolutely love this. um it's really well written. I really like the characters. I am obsessed with the fact that we get to hear from all these different characters' POV. I'm happy when they do it with just one, okay? But when they do 2 and 3 and 4, it's like, this is just amazing. So I absolutely love it. Let me know what you all think. Drop down in the comment section below. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, those links are going to be available down below in the description section. Make sure you like and subscribe and share. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.